Welcome. I'm Trevor Brown, Dean of the John Glenn College of Public Affairs at The Ohio State University. Each year, the Glenn College honors a distinguished public servant for their dedicated service to the nation. Normally, we've conducted the ceremony in person in the nation's capital, where we welcome alumni, friends, the OSU DC Alumni Association, and others connected to the Glenn College and the university. It's also typically a wonderful opportunity for students participating in the Glenn College's Washington Academic Internship Program for undergraduates and our MPA DC program for graduate professional students to meet and connect with a notable public servant. Last year, with the arrival of COVID-19, we were forced to cancel our in-person ceremony, instead conduct the presentation virtually. Last year's winner, Dr. Carla Hayden, the first Black female librarian of Congress, was kind enough to not only receive the award virtually, but join me in a conversation about leadership and service. This year, we're building on that experience by asking two students from our Washington Academic Internship Program and our DC MPA program to join in the conversation with this year's award winner. In this way, we're trying to replicate that opportunity for students to engage with the winner. So now on to the award. We've been giving out this award for several decades, but it took on special meaning when Senator Glenn joined The Ohio State University. This July 18th, Senator Glenn would have turned 100 years old, and it's been almost 5 years since his passing. But his spirit lives on robustly at the core of the Glenn College to inspire citizenship and develop leadership. For this award, the college selects individuals who share Senator Glenn's broad and deep commitment to public service over the course of their careers. There's something special about elected service. Senator Glenn took great pride in representing the citizens of Ohio, not just those who voted for him. He didn't always make decisions that everyone liked, but he thought carefully about his decisions. He drew upon his values and his convictions. He sought out the objective analysis and information, and he consulted experts and those who were impacted. This year's winner has spent a good deal of her exemplary career in elected service for her home state of Ohio, representing the citizens of her state and her district, and balancing their interests with the interests of the broader public good. Most recently, she has made a momentous transition, leaving the U.S. House of Representatives to become only the second African-American woman to serve as the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. She is also, as far as our archives can determine, the first OSU graduate to serve in a cabinet role in the U.S. federal government. To introduce this year's award winner, we've asked another distinguished Ohioan to do the honors. Michael B. Coleman was the first African-American to serve as the mayor of Columbus, and having served for over 15 years in that role, is still the longest serving mayor in Columbus's history. Since stepping down as mayor, he has generously agreed to advance the mission of the Glenn College by serving as the chair of the college's Board of Distinguished Visitors. Mayor Coleman, I give you the honor of formally introducing this year's Excellence in Public Service Award winner and presenting the award.
Thank you, Dean Brown, and it is indeed my honor to recognize and provide this award in Excellence in Public Service to Secretary Marcia Fudge. And let me just say a few words about Secretary Fudge. Excellence is how I think about the secretary. She defines the word excellence and leadership as well. As a member of Congress for many years, she was also a mayor of the state of Ohio as well. She's a person that is brilliant, but approachable. She has big ideas, but cares about regular people. She is talked about from the boardrooms to the barbershops all over the state of Ohio. And in fact, her impact in agriculture, her impact in housing, her impact in the daily life of those in her district and the state has been felt nationally. How do I know this? Because I've known the secretary for a long time. back to when she was the mayor, to when she became a member of Congress, to then becoming the chair of the Black Caucus in Congress, to be a leader in the nation in so many ways. When I think of excellence, and I try to define the word in Webster's dictionary, there will be a picture of Secretary Fudge right next to the word and the definition of excellence in the Webster's dictionary. I'm proud to call her my friend, and she deserves this award more than anyone I know. So, Secretary Fudge, I, on behalf of John Glenn College, present to you virtually this award of excellence in public service, and congratulations.
Thank you so very, very much, my friend. Mayor, it's always good to see you. Most of what I learned as a mayor, I learned from you. So I learned from the best, and I thank you for giving me this award. And I certainly thank my alma mater, the Ohio State University, for recognizing me for just my life's work. Nothing special, just what I love to do. And so thank you both. It's a great honor. And I just want to say that it's so special to me because I had the pleasure of spending a little time with John Glenn over the years and just learned from his humble and insightful thinking about what public service really means. And so it is a special honor for me as well, because so many of my friends have received this award. So thank you all so, so much. Cannot thank you enough.
Well, Secretary Fudge, let me join Mayor Coleman in congratulating you on behalf of the John Glenn College of Public Affairs and Ohio State University in receiving the 2021 Excellence in Public Service Award. As I noted earlier, well, I agree wholeheartedly with Mayor Coleman's assessment. You are truly, truly deserving. As I noted earlier, I'm joined by two students in the Glenn College's DC programs, Grace Beatles, an OSU undergraduate majoring in political science and strategic communication, participating in the college's Washington Academic Internship Program, and an Irene Lewis, an OSU graduate professional student participating in our DC MPA program. Welcome, Grace and Irene. I'm going to turn it over to the two of you to engage Secretary Fudge in a conversation about public service and leadership.
Thank you, Dean Brown. I'll start with our first question. What inspired you to pursue a career in public service?
I don't know that I chose public service or public service chose me. You know, when I came out of college, unless you were in education or you were a nurse or you had the wherewithal to start your own business, I think people forget what our history was. And that was that the only people who significantly hired people of color, Black people in particular at that time, was the government. And that was where you had a real opportunity to advance. And so I think it became almost natural that I had been around people in public service most of my life, but it was more that there were more opportunities in the government than there were anyplace else. So it probably was more government being my path than me really choosing it.
I really love that response and I appreciate that. To go off of that, who in your life or in your career influenced your journey the most thus far?
That's about the easiest question anyone could ever ask me, because they are my mother and my grandmother, neither of whom had a college education, worked very hard. My mother was a union organizer, one of the very first women to be hired by a major union in this country. And so the example that she set about being involved was important, but my grandmother, who was a domestic until the very day she died, was the person who led the street club, who was the deaconess at the church and the chair of the trustee board, and just always involved. And I think that over time, it was an expectation for me to kind of follow in their footsteps, because it was important. I saw the difference even as a child that they made in the lives of other people. And it was just something that I wanted to continue to do, because the one goal I always had as a kid was to make my mother and my grandmother proud of what I could do.
How important do you think it is to have someone who is a role model for you and others, as someone who can exemplify what pathways are available?
I think if you don't have one, it makes your life so much more difficult, because all of us are visual learners. So when we see things, we believe that we can do those things. If we know people who are doing great things, we believe we can do those things. If you never see a doctor, I don't know that you ever believe that you can be one. If you never meet a physicist, I don't think you even, not only do you not know you can be, you don't even know what it is. You don't know what they do. And so role models really make life so much easier, because it broadens your horizons. It opens up opportunities. It opens your eyes to what you can do. So I think having a role model is extremely important. Very, very much.
Great. Grace, I'll turn it back over to you.
Your mother and grandmother sound like incredible people and who've had a tremendous influence on your life. So what excites you the most about being a public servant?
Oh, let's see. The thing that excites me is just knowing what I can do for other people. When you're in public service, if you want to be good at it, you have to have a heart for people. You have to want to help. And so it gives me great pleasure when I have helped somebody and they come back and say, oh, thank you for helping me save my house, or thank you for helping my child get in school, or thank you. And sometimes you don't even get the thank you. Just knowing that you did it is enough gratification. That is what excites me. What I can do, the potential that I have to make a difference in people's lives. That to me is exciting.
That's awesome. So with that, I like to ask hard questions. So one of my hard questions is, what has been the hardest lesson in your career in public service?
My hardest lesson has been that I realized I couldn't do everything, that I couldn't help everybody that I wanted to help. It was very painful to me sometimes when people would call and I knew they needed help and I couldn't help them. That probably is the thing that stays with me more than any other, is that I just can't do it all. And that I need help. And sometimes there are not people there that can help. That is the most difficult. And I think probably in addition to that, or in conjunction with that, is that there are so many people who are in public service for the wrong reason. So I try to elevate the fact that at some point, every single person in this country needs to do something for someone other than themselves. Whether it's public service or not, I don't know that you can determine or define what that should be, but that's what public service is to me. And there are too many people who don't think about it that way. They think of it as a job. I think of it as a mission. I think of it as a calling. And so those are the most difficult things, I think, that just to know that I just can't help everybody.
So I want to follow up Irene's good question with another hard one. How hard was it to make the decision to leave the House of Representatives and take on the role of HUD Secretary?
You know, Dean, it wasn't that hard, and I'll tell you why. Not that I didn't love working in the House of Representatives, but I have always and am now a person of very, very strong faith. And I just believe that when it was time for me to move, God would always put something in my path and say, it's your time to take the next step. And so when the president offered me the opportunity, I did not hesitate, because I knew it was just the place where being in the House of Representatives had prepared me to go. And I say this to young people all the time, Dean, that opportunities will always come. You just have to be prepared for them when they do. And so this was an opportunity that I was given, and I believe that I had prepared myself to take it.
We have some of the best students in America at John Glenn. Many of them want to go into some form of public service. What would you tell them are the ingredients for success coming out of John Glenn, going into real life, what are things that they should adopt as principles going forward?
I mean, I think that even looking at your career and looking at others, first off, you have to know that it's something that you really in your heart want to do. You're never going to get rich being a public servant. You're never going to get a whole lot of accolades being a public servant. It is something that you want to do. And if you're not sure, this is probably not the profession for you. Your gratification comes from the work you do. Now, don't get me wrong. I have a very decent life. I'm very happy. But don't go into it thinking that you're going to just, go and just be this big star. You might be. But what you really are is somebody that people know they can go to when they're in trouble. Nobody comes to us when they're happy. People come to us when they need us. And so it's almost like being a social worker in some respects as well. Being able to assess a person's problem and to deal with that problem in a way that makes them comfortable and feel good about it, not begrudgingly, to just make them comfortable. And I would say that you need to, there are two skills I think that are especially important in this business. One is speaking. The other is writing. I write much better than I speak. But writing helps you process in your mind the things that you want to address and deal with in that particular day or week or month. It is something that I think has prepared me in ways that nothing else could. I mean, even in law school, I did well in law school because I could write. So I just say to you that you first have to have a heart to do it. You have to prepare yourself to do it. And you have to know what part of public service is important to you. It doesn't have to be elective office. It doesn't have to be working for a municipality or for a state or a local government. It could be research. It could be working with children. It could be working with seniors. There are lots of ways to serve, but you have to have a heart for service.
Thank you.
It's hard to put into words.
You just did very well.
Thank you.
Grace, back to you.
Thank you again for sharing so much wisdom about what it means to be a public servant. I know we're all excited to see the great work that you will do in your new position as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. So what are your priorities for serving in that position?
Of course, as a result of COVID, my first priority is to be sure that people that we represent and serve come out of this whole in some way. So I want to make sure that they get vaccinated. I want to make sure that people who are homeless get a roof over their head. And then secondly, because of the fact that I'm Black, I want to be sure that I address the inequities and the discrimination within the home buying system. We know that especially for Black people or people of color in general, home ownership is the one way that we start to build generational wealth. But what we find is that today, the gap between white ownership and Black ownership is the same or larger than it was in 1968. Mm-hmm. So Black home ownership is a real top priority with me. I would say thirdly is to finally, hopefully finally, address the backlog of repairs, et cetera, in public housing authorities. I mean, I have family and friends that have lived most of their lives in some of these kinds of facilities. It's something I'm very, very familiar with. But the biggest thing is not to just fix it on the outside, is to let people that are having a little bit of a difficult time, or people who are just at one station just trying to get to the next, that there are people like us who care, that we want them to have the dignity and respect that every single person should have, no matter where they live, no matter what their zip code is, no matter what their education level is. Those are my priorities. If they don't remember anything about me when I leave here, but that I cared, then I will have succeeded. I will absolutely have succeeded.
Those are amazing, very big, but very beautiful goals that you have. And so my question is, what keeps you grounded and has kept you grounded throughout your career?
A lot of it is my upbringing. I mean, people look at you in your life and think your whole life has been easy. because you've accomplished certain things. I remember as a kid, we lived in a side by side, a duplex. And on one side was my great grandparents, my aunt and uncle, their 6 kids, my other uncle on our side, me, my mother, my brother, my grandparents, and at other points, other people. We would have sometimes 20 people living in our house, you know? And then anytime somebody came from the South, they stayed with us until they found some place to live. So I think that realizing that life is about family, it is about how you treat other people and how you live with other people. I think it grounds you to just know that it's not about things. I learned very young what was important in life. Most people don't learn it until they're old. I just was fortunate to learn it young. And so even as a kid, my friends were my family. So I'm very, very rooted in my family. And then secondly, I'm very, very rooted in my church and my faith. So those are the things I think that keep me grounded. And other than that, I have friends from school and other places who will pull my coat if I am not. You trust that I have friends close enough to say to me, okay, you've gone too far with this now. You know, maybe you need to back away with that. You need those kinds of friends. You always need somebody that will tell you the truth, not to hurt you, but because they care about you. And I've just always been blessed to have those kinds of friends and family.
What do you think is, I guess, the biggest obstacle to achieving your goals right now? You have like incredible goals, and I think they'll make a huge impact, but what do you see as the biggest challenge to getting there?
Well, I think if I really have to think of it in its totality, I would think that the biggest challenge I face, and probably the same thing with the mayor, is getting other people to see your vision and come with you. You know, we have so many people who don't believe that you can do certain things, or they don't believe you can go as far as you think you can, or they come up with excuses. Oh, that's going to cost too much. Oh, that's going to be too hard. I don't believe that there is anything too hard to do. I don't believe that there's anything that we should not try. And I get that from my grandmother. You know what I mean? My grandmother was an amazing person with a very limited education, raised people's children my whole life. But she never believed that there was anything I couldn't do if I applied myself, if I worked hard, if I gave my best. And so that's what I believe now, that there are things we can do that no one else has done. And somebody will say, well, why nobody else tried it? They weren't me. They didn't come from where I came from. They don't know what I know. And so I work very, very hard at moving the cheese, as you were, every single day.
Thank you for that. So my question has to do with some of your work within the House Ag Committee. My background's in agriculture, and I really admired a lot of your work and how confident you were. So what helped you deal with opposition when it came to standing up for the communities that you represented, but then also Americans at large? How did you stay so confident and resilient?
You know, confidence. I'm not so sure that I was always confident. But you know, the old saying is fake it till you make it. You know, you just keep going, just keep going. But I would say that what drives me, especially when I was on agriculture, was because I represented so many hungry people, children who got almost all of their nutrition in school and didn't eat on weekends, kids that didn't eat in the summer when school wasn't in. And so because of just my concern for people who had no voice, you have to fight because there's nobody else to fight for them but you. And so I know I get emotional about it sometimes, but I see these kids and I would ask my colleagues, are you invisible? Do you not have these poor children in your neighborhood? They do. They just choose not to see them. And so they don't like what their parents do. I don't care what their parents do. All I care about is hungry kids. And that's what drove me on ag. And maybe it came across as being very confident, and I'm a fairly confident person. I wasn't always where I needed to be with my confidence, but I knew that what I was fighting for was right. And that gives you confidence.
Secretary Fudge, I'll reserve my right as host here to ask one last question of you. And I love that you're wearing scarlet and gray. And I'm standing here in front of Page Hall on the Oval. Would love to hear you just reflect in closing here on how important your Buckeye experience was and how important education was in your journey.
Ohio State in many, many ways really changed my life. You know, I was from a very tight-knit family, as I've said to you, and we didn't travel very much. Everything I learned about the world, pretty much I learned in a book. I went to the library an awful lot. But Ohio State gave me the opportunity to see the largesse of the world, of just even my own university. You know, when you go to school with tens of thousands of students, you can always find a place for yourself. And education was then and is now for me what we've always called the great equalizer. It is what puts me at the same level as those who have been given much, much more. And it gives me the ability to feel comfortable in any space because education has brought me a long, long way. But the friendships and the relationships and the role models that I met at Ohio State really prepared me to go from there to where I am today. Many of those people that were my friends at Ohio State are my friends today. Many of the people that I have such great respect were my friends then. And so it is a life's journey that started at Ohio State. And I can't say enough how honored I was to have gotten the kind of education I did and to be a Buckeye through and through.
Well, I know there are many, many more questions we could ask you, but knowing that duty calls for you, I'm sure we'll bring this to a close. So on behalf of the Glenn College and Ohio State, I thank you. And I want to thank Irene and Mayor Coleman and Grace for joining me in this conversation. And most importantly, even though you've told us a story that was very personal, I appreciate your shout out to Ohio State here at the end, because we take great pride in the tremendous career you've had. Obviously, you had most of the responsibility for the great impact that you've had, but I appreciate you heralding the experience and the opportunities you received here at the Buckeye campus. So in closing, congratulations on being this year's winner of the 2021 Excellence in Public Service Award.
Thank you very, very much. And I hope that I get an opportunity to meet the students that I spoke with today. If you get to Washington, you come and see me. And I thank you again so very much from the very, very bottom of my heart. Thank you.